In the darkened streets of Chicago, a life was stolen, and a city's trust in its police force was forever shattered. The story of Laquan McDonald is one of injustice, systemic failure, and, ultimately, the fight for truth. On a cold night in October 2014, Laquan, a 17-year-old black teenager, was killed by police officer Jason Van Dyke. But what makes this case different from so many others isn't just the brutality of the act itself. It's the way the truth was buried, manipulated, and, in the end, revealed to the world. But, as we dig deeper into the story, we'll uncover shocking truths and shocking twists that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the justice system. Laquan McDonald's death seemed like any other tragic headline. A young black man, seemingly lost in the cycle of violence that often touches those in marginalized communities. On October 20th, 2014, Chicago police responded to a call about a man allegedly carrying a knife. Laquan, who was experiencing a mental health crisis, walked away from officers as they approached him. In the grainy footage from a police dashcam, Laquan can be seen walking slowly along the street, seemingly lost, his steps erratic. But then, without warning, Officer Jason Van Dyke fired his gun. 16 shots. 16 shots fired into the body of a teenager. The video, which remained under wraps for over a year, showed a chilling and almost incomprehensible scene. Laquan was shot while walking away, his body jerking with each bullet until he crumpled to the ground. For over 13 seconds, Officer Van Dyke continued to shoot, long after the young man had fallen. And here's where the story takes a shocking turn. For over a year, the city of Chicago did everything it could to keep that video from seeing the light of day. At first, the police department described the incident as a justified shooting. They claimed Laquan was lunging at officers with a knife. But none of this was true. The dashcam video told a different story, a story of an officer who fired indiscriminately into the body of a teenager who was not charging or threatening anyone. In fact, Laquan was walking away from the officers when the gunfire erupted. As the video remained locked away, the city made its attempt to bury the truth. A calculated, systematic effort was made to suppress the footage, keep the details hidden, and allow the narrative of self-defense to persist. But when the video was eventually leaked to the public, the truth could no longer be denied. The aftermath of Laquan McDonald's murder was a whirlwind of corruption, lies, and a desperate attempt by the system to shield its own. For months, the public was told one version of the events. Laquan, according to the police narrative, was an imminent threat, his life snuffed out by a necessary act of force. But when the footage came to light, the city of Chicago was forced to confront its dark truth. The protesters gathered in the streets, demanding justice. Officer Jason Van Dyke, the man who shot Laquan, was finally charged with first-degree murder after months of public outcry. However, the twists did not end there. Even after the video was released, and after the charge was made, Van Dyke's defense was centered on his claim that he had feared for his life. He claimed Laquan had been acting erratically and that the police had no choice but to use force. In Van Dyke's mind, his actions were justified. But the video told a completely different story. Laquan was walking away, far from any immediate threat. In November 2015, the city's mayor, Rahm Emanuel, a key figure in this cover-up, faced mounting pressure. His administration, who had helped bury the video, attempted to shift the blame. Emanuel quickly dismissed the police superintendent, but it was clear the corruption ran deeper. The city's leadership, desperate to protect its own, had allowed a lie to fester. Laquan McDonald's family, led by his mother, Tina, was left to grapple with a harsh reality. Their son, a young man with a history of mental health struggles, had been taken from them by a system that was supposed to protect him. The emotional toll on Tina was impossible to measure. As she struggled with grief, she also had to contend with the fact that the city of Chicago, the very people entrusted to serve and protect, had allowed her son's death to be swept under the rug. Tina, a mother grieving for her son, found herself fighting not only for Laquan's justice, but for the dignity of all those who have suffered under a system that continually fails people of color. But the battle was far from over. After months of protests, public outcry, and the pressure of the media, the trial of Jason Van Dyke began. The jury, watching the video and hearing the emotional testimony of Laquan's family, ultimately found Van Dyke guilty of second-degree murder and 16 counts of aggravated battery. Finally, some semblance of justice. For once, the system had been forced to act. Van Dyke was sentenced to just over 6 years in prison, a far cry from the justice Laquan's family had hoped for, but it was a victory nonetheless. The protests that had rocked Chicago found some measure of closure. For Laquan McDonald, the road to justice had been long and painful. His death exposed the deep racial and systemic inequalities that continue to plague American law enforcement. And although Van Dyke's conviction was a small step forward, Laquan's family knew the fight was far from over. There were still many more families who had suffered the same loss, whose loved ones' deaths had been swept aside by the very system that was meant to protect them. Laquan McDonald's story is one of immense pain, but it's also a story of resilience. His family fought for justice in the face of overwhelming adversity, and they made sure his death was not in vain. In the end, justice was served, not perfectly, not quickly, but it was served. Laquan's death sparked a national conversation about police brutality, racial injustice, and the fight for truth. His name will be remembered, not just as the victim of a senseless tragedy, but as the catalyst for change. His life may have been cut short, but the fight for his justice will continue for as long as it takes to make sure no more lives are lost in the same way. Laquan McDonald's legacy will live on, not just in the memory of his family, but in the movement he helped create. Laquan McDonald's murder was a stark reminder of the deep racial injustices that still exist in America today. His story serves as a call for all of us to demand accountability, transparency, and equality in every corner of our society. Though Laquan's family will never get him back, they've done what no one else could. They forced the world to acknowledge the truth. And in the face of such a grave injustice, that truth is the only thing that can lead us toward the justice we all deserve. If this story touched you, leave a like, subscribe for more, and drop a comment to keep the conversation alive.